Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be getting started momentarily. Just hang out and we'll get started. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We will be getting started momentarily. Good evening and aloha to each of you. We are so glad that you've joined us tonight for Ask Me, our educational webinar series. My name's Audra Hines, Vice President of Care Services for the Golden West chapter of the ALS Association. I want to just give a quick thank you to our wonderful marketing and communication staff who are here behind the scenes with me for every one of these, led by Jenica Lancy, who really helped make all of these Ask Me programs go so well. Thanks a million, you guys. I couldn't do it without you. We would not be able to continue to make programs like this one tonight, too, at all. They would not be possible without generous donations to the Golden West chapter. And I want to thank our lead sponsor for the Ask Me series, Mitsubishi Tanabe Pharma America, as well as our special donors, including the Ron Malone family and the Morris family. These donors are all committed to supporting the ALS community, and the care and resources that we're able to provide are largely due to supporters like these. I want to give a really special shout out to all of our veterans in the ALS community. Tomorrow is Veterans Day, and we salute those who have bravely served in honor of our country. Those with a background of military service, regardless of the branch, are twice as likely as civilians to develop ALS. And we're proud to be caring for many veterans in our communities throughout California and Hawaii. Thank you for your service, and we're grateful to be providing support and resources for you. November is National Family Caregivers Month, and this month and every month, we honor those who have the special and important job of caring for those with ALS who need support the most. We know that an ALS diagnosis impacts every aspect of caregivers' lives as they adjust their efforts to meet ongoing work, family, personal, and financial obligations, which change as the disease progresses. ALS takes a toll on the entire family as new challenges across physical, mental, emotional, and cognitive spectrums arise constantly, and new stressors unveil themselves for family members and caregivers. Research shows that caregivers have a higher stress level than others, making them at risk for a number of health conditions. And often we hear that providing care impacts personal and emotional well-being for our caregivers. The Golden West chapter is proud to provide specific resources designed to help our caregivers, whether it's through small grants to cover respite care or support groups specifically focused on caregivers and loved ones, or providing funding to help with kids' camps and activities. Please know that the chapter is here for you. You're a vital part of our community, and we're here to offer as much as possible to make the load you're carrying a little lighter. To learn more about the resources provided by the Golden West chapter in English and Spanish, please visit our website at alsagoldenwest.org. In an effort to recognize the challenges that family caregivers face, we've planned a special program tonight. No one knows how to plan for ALS. It comes at a time in life for many who are in the middle of careers, raising families, traveling, and just plain enjoying life. The uphill battle that comes when families need to learn a whole new set of skills for caregiving can be daunting. There are days that are so difficult and others that can be incredibly rewarding. Every family finds a different playbook for how to live with this. And tonight we'll hear two of those stories from the caregiver's perspectives. Trish Rice cared for her son, writer and poet Ryan Farnsworth, until he passed away from ALS in 2019. She's here with us tonight, along with Mari Fuentes, who provided care for her husband, filmmaker Anton Maillie, who passed away just this year. And I will have you both come on to camera and turn your sound on now so we can all see your lovely faces. Thank you so much. Trish, I see you. Mari, there you are. Oh, Mari, just click your sound. There you go.
Yep.
Hey.
All good.
Thank you guys really so much for being here to chat with us tonight and just have a conversation about this. I'd love for you both to just have a little time to tell our audience about both Ryan and Anton. Anything you'd like to say about them, their lives, before we discuss your perspectives and the life of being a caregiver. Trish, I'm going to start with you, talking about Ryan.
All right. Well, first I want to say thanks so much for inviting me. It really truly is an honor. You know, you guys are like family to us now, so thank you for that. Yeah, just to share a little something about my guy. Ryan was diagnosed at 29 years old at 2015. He journeyed with ALS for about 3 years. And yeah, it's everybody here that's listening knows it's the worst diagnosis. Really, it was just it's been a journey. It'll continue to be a journey for us. You know, he's with us still, but yeah, I don't want to take up too much time talking about my guy because this is about the caregivers and everything, and I'm happy to share my experience, but yeah, I'll turn it over to Mari.
Thanks, Trish.
Thank you, Audra. I'm so honored that you asked me to be here today. Yeah, this is actually a little, I'd say a little raw because my husband Anton just passed away in September, so this is all a little new for me. But we, you know, Anton started having some symptoms about 7 years ago. Actually, I'd say maybe more like 8 years ago, very subtle. And, you know, of course, you know, me being that wife that was pestering him, trying to get him to slow down and go to the doctor, you know, he was very busy with work. He was a filmmaker and traveled all the time. He was also a marathon runner. So if he wasn't off shooting something in some far off country, he was running a marathon in that country. So he was always very busy and just, you know, in the prime of life. And he finally took some time off. We went to the doctor and they knew it was something, but they just didn't quite know what it was. And of course, it took a very long time for them to officially diagnose him with ALS. And it wasn't until January of 2020 that he was diagnosed with ALS. So it was a long journey to the diagnosis. And interestingly enough, there was a little bit of relief for me that we actually finally had a diagnosis, because then we could start to look for resources, because for so many years we were just in the dark and we just didn't know where to turn or who to go to or what to do. And so in a weird way, it was a little bit of a blessing that we finally got a diagnosis, as weird as that sounds. But then we found Golden West and we found Audra, and it was just incredible, the support that you guys gave us. So thank you.
Well, thank you both. That was a great way to start this conversation and just understanding a little bit about how the journey started with the disease. What was, you know, Mari, you mentioned there was just so much to learn and kind of so much sort of thrown at you. What was the toughest thing to figure out in terms of helping Ryan or Anton with whatever it may be? What was the most difficult thing to really, like, gosh, how are we going to figure this piece out? Mari, I'll ask you first.
Yeah, I think the hardest part was, you know, Anton really did not want to accept it. And so me being the more pragmatic one, the planner, the one that was always, trying to make sure we were, a few steps ahead of everything just in life. It was the hardest part for me and for him was to just accept what was happening. And what I mean by that is, as ALS sort of changes sometimes day to day, week to week, month to month, you have to adjust to whatever comes your way next. And so the hardest part for us was just really trying to support him as each turn took sort of like it was hard enough today, but it was even going to be harder tomorrow. And so it was difficult to adjust to those big things. And an example would be when he was tripping, he was very unbalanced and he just did not want to use a cane. And I kept saying, a cane is cool, and it's going to help you from, falling. And nope, not going to use a cane, not going to use a cane. And I'm just, I want you to use a cane at least. And then he finally used a cane, but then it went to a walker. And oh, absolutely, I'm not going to use a walker. There's no way I'm going to use a walker. And so it was just, again, all of these bits as we're going down this road. It was hard. It was really hard. And you're trying to, be mindful of, emotions and the reality. And it's just, there's so much. And as a caregiver, you just want them to be safe and you want them to be, living as best as they can. And so that I would say would be the hardest that we had to deal with. But it was, just that goalpost just kept moving each year. And because we were in this about 7 years, it was a constant. And that was the hardest.
Makes a lot of sense. Trish, what about you?
Yeah, I agree with Mari, like figuring things out. At first, it was so overwhelming, excuse me, because I wanted to research everything and I wanted to figure out what was needed, but yet I didn't really know. Everybody's different and there's different types of ALS and different symptoms. So it was hard to really know, how to figure things out. I think as soon as we were connected with the ALS, the Golden West chapter, the caregiver groups, I went to that and I really didn't want to, but I am so grateful that I did because the very first meeting, it was actually probably a lot more information than I could ever want. I think I left there just absolutely devastated and in tears because a lot of people felt the need to share. And it was just like, wow, this was so much more than I could ever imagine. But yeah, I learned that I couldn't figure out a lot. I mean, what I thought it was going to be, it wasn't. It seemed like as soon as, like Mari said about the walking, Ryan had AFOs and he was also really, resistant. He's like, no, I'm not doing that. And I'm watching him fall and I'm watching him go through these things. And, he also, was not willing to accept that this was ALS and he was going to be the one that was going to beat it. And he had hope and he always did. And I just loved him for that. And here I am as a mom because, he's not young, he's a man. And I fell into a role that I recognize now looking back that I put him in this like childhood boy box, right? And he was not having mom's suggestions about anything. So I learned a lot from the caregiver groups. And then when we went to the ALS clinics, it was talking to the doctors. And I think I got to a point where I really asked Ryan, I said, I'm an analyst by nature. You are my son, and I want to learn everything I can and how to help you. He was in a different position with that. He was in a place of, I get you're there, but I'm not. And I had to respect that. And it really, I think in retrospect, I wish I would have had communication with them earlier on about that, because I was trying to figure things out, and it was for his safety. I didn't want him dealing with a fractured leg on top of everything else. So getting the information from the caregiver groups, talking to the doctors, asking the questions. And I learned that I had to do a lot of that kind of on my own and just, not really chat with them about it. But that was that was difficult. It's, my heart goes out to everybody that's navigating this right now, because connecting with people, and asking questions, I think that's the thing that really saved me there.
Mm-hmm. And, I heard somebody recently say that they feel like sometimes caregiving can be a lonely experience. I wonder what either or both of you think about that sort of idea, that concept.
Yeah, absolutely. It felt very, very lonely. And I think I didn't want to share what I was feeling, because I didn't want anybody else to really experience or know the feeling. And I think I kind of wanted to just put myself in a bubble personally there. And I wanted to protect Ryan's feelings. And he and I kind of talked about that later, where he's like, gosh, Mom, you're really strong. And, I think you feel like you've got to be strong for me. And so I was able to really lean on my family, my sisters, my friends, but it did feel that way until I started connecting with people more and really sharing, openly and honestly about, I don't know how I'm going to navigate this. I don't know how I'm going to do this. So yeah, it did feel lonely.
Mari, how about for you?
Yeah, for definitely. I'm such a private person, and I don't like to, I've never been one to share a lot with a lot of people. And, my husband, he had a wide network of friends, and together we had a lot of friends, but he was not afraid to live out loud. And so he decided to write a blog, and he would just write about his experience with ALS. He wrote about life before ALS. He was a very openly, he was a sober person for over 20 years, and he talked about that very openly. And so it was difficult for me to be able to live out loud like that, because for my own, just who I am, it was really difficult to be able to accept help. So many people would always, say, what can we do? Can we bring you food? And, there was just so much out there. And initially I would just push it away. And so, yeah, those early years was very lonely, because I just was so resistant. And I also felt like, I can do this, I can do this on my own. I can take care of him and take care of our 2 kids and a house and 3 dogs and a business. And sure, I can do it all. But then I just, obviously I ran myself into the ground, and it was hard. It was really, really difficult. And one of the things that I've really learned is to, throughout this process, is to just open up and be vulnerable, and accept the help, and accept those meals. And once I sort of let go that shield that I had in front of me, it got a little bit easier, and I wasn't as stressed. and I wasn't as lonely. And again, that was just sort of my own personal journey through this that I had to learn how to do. And then along the way, you know, as my husband started to progress, you know, we needed help. We needed caregiving help. I needed help. I needed someone to help me, you know, take care of him to the point where he was, you know, in a wheelchair. He was no longer had use of his legs or arms. His speech was very quickly, you know, declining. He ended up having, you know, a peg tube. So, you know, it got real quick. And so, you know, he had to stop working. Obviously, I had to stop working because I was taking care of him. So we ended up having to do a GoFundMe, which I did not want to do because, again, who I am, and I'm, you know, I just was proud, and it just, you know, it took a lot of convincing from a lot of people to say, look, let us help you. Let us, you know, help raise some money so we can get caregivers in. And we did, and we were able to raise some money, and I was able to get some additional help, and it made all the difference. And I'm just, you know, again, another lesson learned for me is to accept the help. So.
All great points. I just want to say to the audience too, if anybody has a question for Mari or Trish, just during our conversation, please feel free. There's a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Just type that in, and we'll be sure to ask that out loud. I want to ask you both something. You know, we have some family members and caregivers who have expressed to us that they never imagined themselves as a caregiver. And at times they feel like they just can't do it anymore. Wondering if you ever felt that at any point in the journey, and what did you do about it, if anything? Trish, I'll start with you.
Yes, absolutely. I didn't think at the beginning that I would feel that way, you know, ever. But as Ryan had difficulties, you know, breathing, swallowing, a lot of days, especially towards the end, I'm a very faithful person. I was in prayer a lot, saying those exact words. I just don't think I can do this anymore. And as soon as I got to that point, I tried pulling myself out, like, okay, you know, this isn't about you, you know, you're taking care of your boy, and, you know, don't let yourself stay there too long. And, you know, I'd also, again, my earth angels, I would all of a sudden get the phone calls or the emails or you've got this. And I'm just so grateful for those. But yeah, it was very, very, very difficult. Very difficult because you know, in caregiving, I've helped my parents, you know, a lot. I've helped friends. But when I learned that I was going to take on this role for Ryan, you know, where I'm brushing his teeth and helping him with the restroom and helping shower him and all of these things, I was good with it as the mom, you know. For Ryan, on the other hand, that was hard. And he was so gracious. I can't say enough. He was so gracious, so patient with me. I mean, he handled it, I think, a lot better than I did. And I thought I was going to handle it fine. But yeah, I did. I got to those moments where when he was just ready, you know, there was this time where he was going to beat it. And when he realized that, no, you know, this ALS is going to take his life, we almost we were just like one. I don't even know how to describe it, really. We became merged, like one person. He was taking care of me, I was taking care of him. But there were my days where I can't do this anymore. And then he got to the same place, you know, in his ALS journey. He waited too long for a feeding tube and he declined a trach, and things got very hard for him. So we both were at that point of, I don't think we could do this anymore. But the blessing was we were able to love each other and hug each other through it.
Yeah.
You know, with the support of friends. So
Great. Thanks for sharing all that, Trish.
yeah.
Mari, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, you know, it's interestingly enough, you know, my mother, she had a terminal illness in the late 80s and early, well, 91. And I was her caregiver. And so back then, you know, I was just in my 20s and just sort of, you know, doing my own thing. And so I took care of her for about a year, and she was on oxygen and she was still mobile. So we would back then, you know, lug that big gigantic oxygen tank around. And so that was my first introduction of actual caregiving. And I did that for about a year until she passed away. So it was almost kind of like when this happened, it was almost second nature for me. And plus, you know, we have two boys. They're teenagers, but they're teenage boys. So there's a lot that I'm, you know, still doing for them. So when Anton, as he progressed and then he got the diagnosis, it wasn't so much that it was concerning to me that I was now a caregiver, because I kind of feel like as a mom and taking care of my own mother, it was just sort of a natural path in a sense. And so it wasn't foreign to me at all. However, the scope of this was just off the charts. And so I would say as each moment or each passing like milestone, I would say, I can't do this anymore. There's no way I can do this. You know, we got to the point with, you know, the feeding tube, and I had to lift him out of his chair and into the bed, and he didn't want to use a Hoyer, and our Hoyer didn't fit underneath our bed. So I have to literally physically lift him and put him into to bed or on the toilet. It just became incredibly difficult. And I would say towards the end, the last couple of years, you know, I really felt broken. I felt like I just could not possibly do this one more day. And especially towards the end, it got incredibly difficult because my husband, although he wasn't officially diagnosed with FTD, but you know, the cognitive decline at the end was so difficult. It just became very challenging to take care of him, and the anger and the paranoia, and, you know, a lot of those things that could potentially happen when you do have, you know, cognitive decline or FTD, you know, it makes it that much more difficult. And that part I was not prepared for at all. And here's, you know, my husband, who's one of the most positive people on the planet. And his motto was always make good days great, because he either had a good day or a great day. There was nothing else. And so I used to just like look at him like, how could you only have a good day or a great day? Like, I'm having a really crappy day right now. And I'm okay with saying that. And I'm crying and I'm depressed and I'm just struggling. But he would always just be very happy and very grateful and just carry on with life. So that's what made it very difficult at the end, when that person who I knew changed so drastically. So mentally, you know, physically, I've never experienced anything like that. And so it was it was very difficult.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the cognitive shifts, Mari, the FTD or the conditions that sort of mirror that. We hear this from lots of families, and it's actually going to be a topic we're going to focus on next year for one of these programs, just to educate people a little bit more about that and the complexities and what's available to treat that or not in some cases. Thinking about for each of you, just, during this journey, what were some things that you did to take care of yourself? Or what were some things that you wish you had done? You didn't take care of yourself and you wish you had done in that process. And Mari, I'll start with you this time.
Well, the one thing I think I wish I had done earlier on was to accept more help, and not push it away. And so I think had I accepted more help, it perhaps would have, it wouldn't have been so stressful on the stress that I put on myself was really, it was the stress that I put on myself. But I do believe that when you get to a point when the physical activity each day of just getting through the day, of taking care of your the person that has ALS, it's so mentally and physically exhausting that oftentimes, and I really kind of felt this like towards the end, where I felt like, it's okay to not feel okay. And I think that was the thing that really would get me through each day, because most people who would check in with me, who would say, how are you doing? What can I do for you? Or what are you doing for you? And, if I heard that one more time, I think I would have maybe just punched somebody in the in the stomach. Because I kind of felt like when people were asking that, they wanted me to say, oh, everything's good, or yeah, I'm doing great, or yeah, I'm really taking care of myself, and yeah, and I wasn't. And it was, but what I realized was it's okay, because that was a moment in time where it was hell a lot of days, unfortunately. And now that I'm on the other side of that, I'm so grateful I had those moments and that realization that I didn't have to pretend to people to say, yeah, I'm good, or yeah, I'm doing okay, because oftentimes I wasn't. I would do an occasional, massage or something like that, if I could get away. But, sometimes it was just a matter of being able to take a shower, which at the end was maybe once or twice a week, because things were just so bad. But at least it was once or twice a week. And at least, I was able to do that. So, a lot of people do ask this question, and I think I just kind of focused on, this is where I am right now. This is where my husband is right now. This is where we are as a family. And it's not always going to be like this. And now, again, I'm on the other side of it. And I'm grateful I went through that, because it really, as a person, as what I learned, my character, my resilience, I know I can do hard things. It's so empowering. And so I use a lot of that for me today. And I didn't see it then. I didn't see it, these past 7 years, but I definitely see it now.
Wow. Yeah. Just as you said, on the other side of it now, and just really being able to reflect. Trish, thoughts from you on this.
That's something Mari said that just is so true. It's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
You know, it took me a long time to figure that out because, again, I hopped into this role of I've got to be super mom, I've got to be okay, I got to keep it together, I need to be strong, but I also really lost my sense of self. I mean, there was no Trish, what does Trish want? What does Trish need? You know, in the beginning, I became so immersed in ALS and Ryan's journey and everything he needed that I really truly didn't, I didn't take care of myself. And people would say, like Mari said, people, you know, what are you doing? You can't pour from an empty cup. You know, all these things where the intent is really real and out of love, right? You know, because they want to know that you're taking care of yourself. But at the same time, I always felt like, how can I do that? How can I, you know, go do this or do that when Ryan's battling, you know, this, and this is his journey. So it was really, you know, it was really interesting for me because I think it was about a year and a half in where I don't know who said what, but I had this epiphany moment of, oh my gosh, you know, who am I? What am I doing for me? It was like I clicked out of this fog, you know. And so I started journaling. I went to therapy. I started some grief counseling because I realized, like, yeah, I am grieving. Ryan is here, and he really, again, it was hard for him to accept the diagnosis, but he just blossomed into this amazing, incredible person where, you know, he was YouTube videos, writing, poetry, meditation, involved with Hope's Loves Company. And so as he started changing where he was at, then I clicked back into, yeah, you know, going on a small trip, doing things like that. And it was hard to get away, but, and his dad would come help him out. And, you know, his dad could never do anything right. We would laugh. But yeah, I think, yeah, for me, there were some things that I wish I would have done sooner. We did have help, but later on, we eventually did hire somebody. I retired from CAL FIRE. I stayed home, and I was super grateful that we were in a situation where I could do that. But yet I ended up hiring somebody to come help out because it did dawn on me. No, I do need to get away and know somebody's here with Ryan, know he's okay. He needed to feel okay with that too. But that took a while to get there. And I think it all happened in whatever timing it did. But the self-care thing is real. It's just, I didn't even know where to start with that, or what does that even look like, you know? And then I had guilty feelings about it. So working through therapy and journaling and writing little love letters to myself and pep talks. And I again, support from family, but yeah, it's hard. It was a blessing to take care of Ryan that time. I'm so grateful for it. It changed my life in such a way that, you know, you do one of Ryan's insights in his books about, you know, we sometimes are speeding along on a highway, or you're walking really fast, or you're running, but you kind of miss the sights. And what ALS did for us is it kind of turned everything into slow motion. Well, when that happens, sometimes you can see things you don't normally see, and what we appreciated things maybe I didn't appreciate in the same light. And so going through that journey with him, the self-care taking is real, but there was some really big blessings, you know, and that's kind of where I feel right now. It's just a gratitude about that, and knowing that he's okay now too.
And Trish, you said something that ties to this, thinking about the way that other family members in your family, how did they deal with Ryan's journey with ALS and Anton's journey, and how did that impact you, or did it, or maybe it didn't, right? Just in terms of other family members in the circle, and their reaction to all of this.
Yeah, for me, Ryan was my oldest, but it's his brother and his sister that I became not only, jumping into mama bear for Ryan and trying to get everything done right and take care of him, but, my primary focus then was Jeff and Laura, and how are they going to navigate this? And we're really, really close family. And then we have my sisters and aunts and uncles. And I think for Ryan, sometimes there was a little bit too much family. He needed his space, but it was a lot of love. I mean, I'll tell you that we had a lot of love around us, and that was just incredible, incredible to have. But we had to talk openly about things, with Ryan, what he wanted. And sometimes there was talk about the future and what that was going to look like. But more importantly, I just said, I really want to have open, honest communication with you guys, and come to me, talk to me about your fears. I'm your mom, and I want to be there for you. And then I can in turn lean on my other family too. But there was anger too about it. Like what, he's 29. And so we all just kind of learned how to navigate the feelings, the really true feelings about what we were going through, and honor those, and talking about them to me. I don't like the festering. I didn't want it to be, there was, had to be the right time for it, for sure, and I was super protective with Ryan, but it was just, it just ebbs and flows. And, how anybody felt about it was okay, and it was honoring each other. So, but it's hard. I wanted to protect everybody, and I wanted to take care of everybody. And like Mari said before, I wanted it to all be okay, and it wasn't. A lot of time it wasn't. I would spend my time crying in the shower, in the bathroom, go for a drive, and just sob the whole time. So it was interesting for sure, but I don't know, without my family and the support, I just couldn't have, I don't know what that would have looked like. I really don't. So I always go back to gratitude and being grateful.
I love that. And Mari, for you, just sort of kind of a related question. Did you have family members who maybe pushed away because they didn't know how to handle ALS or the situation? It was too difficult, or even how to grieve?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, our immediate family, we have 2 teenage boys who, live this every day. And it was hard on them, but we also, I'm a big fan of open communication. And so being that they were 2 teenage boys who don't typically like to open up too much, again, it was another bit of a learning thing that we all went through, because we had to face it, and we had to talk about it, and we had to talk about it in a very real way. And I think that actually helped the process, and it allowed them to be able to grieve along the way. And honestly, I do think that because this lasted for us about 7 years, we went in and out of different types of grief throughout, even though Anton was very much alive and living. And so it was quite interesting how the dynamics around our home, having to navigate all of that. But I do think the biggest the thing that really helped us all was being able to talk about it and talk about it frequently. And so that was huge. But we did have, some, not so much family as much as it was very close friends who struggled with what was happening. And we did notice that there were some people that just could not just, they stopped coming around. They didn't check in as much, and then they just kind of went away.
Mhm.
And I think, my husband at first was a little put off by it, but then, as time went on, the more conversations that we had, he realized, and we realized that, everyone handles grief differently. And, we're living it every single day, and we're living it, we're talking about it, we're just, everything about what's happening is here, it's real time. And so for other friends who really aren't around as much, it's just where they are in life, and it's just how they cope and how they are responding to something of this magnitude. Because my husband was sort of a larger than life character and had a lot of different circles of friends, and it was just very, very difficult for a lot of people to really comprehend it. And so and I've had some really interesting conversations now with a lot of these friends, and they're just full of love, and they're sad, but I think, again, I've learned how to be a communicator now. And so it's been a beautiful thing to be able to talk to a lot of people who struggled with this, and to let them know that it's okay. And again, it's kind of going back to that, it's okay to not be okay. And I think it's made a big difference. It's made a difference in friends, family, our boys. And it was again a huge, I'm just like, like Trish, I'm just full of gratitude. The lessons that I've learned, and anyway, I'm just very grateful.
Yeah, we've got so many good questions coming in from the audience for you guys. Mari, for you specifically, just wondering what kind of support, what kind of help did you hire in the home? And related to that, did you ever consider a nursing facility when it got difficult to take care of him?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So my husband, he was, like I said, he was a bit of a larger than life character. He would be on a film set, and he was a producer, so he had this 3-ring circus always going on and telling everybody what to do. So when he got ALS, he kind of assumed that role at home. So he was not shy about telling everybody what to do and how to do it and when to do it, even though oftentimes it wasn't right. And so it made taking care of him very challenging, and especially as he progressed, and especially as the cognitive decline happened. So with that, he also developed a tremendous amount of anxiety, to the point where he was just having panic attacks nonstop. And it was just, again, very, very challenging. So friends put together a GoFundMe, and we were able to raise money so that we could bring in a daytime caregiver to help me. And then again, as he continued to progress, we were able to bring in a nighttime caregiver to help. But, interestingly enough, it did sometimes take 2 people to take care of my husband. And again, a lot of it was because, you know, we were trying to keep him home. We were trying to be able to give him a life that I knew that he wanted. But really, he probably should have been in a facility because, you know, we were having to lift him constantly all day. And he insisted on, you know, still sitting on a toilet and having a shower, lifting him into a shower chair and, you know, things like that, which, you know, I really wanted those things for him, but physically it just became so challenging. And I'm a weakling, so I needed help to lift him in and out all day long, all night long. And because he had such tremendous anxiety, he wasn't sleeping anymore for about the last 18 months. So he would only take like little quick, you know, cat naps, and he couldn't lay flat. So he was in his chair a lot, but then he wanted to go lay down in the bed. So we'd have to put him in the bed. And then there was 10 minutes later, he wanted to be out of the bed. And so it was a lot of that. And so that was driving me crazy. And so I just decided, you know, we're going to just use, you know, all this GoFundMe money, and we're going to just hire as many people as we needed to. And thankfully, we had that money to do that. And I know a lot of people, you know, don't have the means to hire caregivers. I could not have survived if I didn't have them. And my husband also towards the end would fire a lot of them, and some of them left crying. So it did get a little squirrely there. And a lot of it was me training. So it did kind of become a full-time job for me. But again, we were trying our hardest to keep him home. But it was towards the end where I was really, really considering putting him in a facility because, again, I was at that point where I can't do this one more day. There's no way I could do this another day. And then the next day would come and I was still standing, and I'd get through the day. And then at the end of the day, I can't do this again. And I just sort of, you know, went through that. Yeah, I'm glad we had the means to be able to hire some caregivers.
Thank you so much for that, Mari. I think that's really helpful to a lot of the people listening tonight. Thinking about, and Trish, I'll punt this one over to you, just the exhaustion, right, that can set in, whether that's physical or mental, as you mentioned before. How did you manage that? Right? How did you manage that during the course of time? Were you slipping in small naps like Mari was talking about? How did you manage?
Yeah, I actually did. At the point that I got help, Penny came 3 times a week. I did nap because, you know, Ryan was in the next room and, hey mom, and you know, I was getting him up, putting him in the Hoyer lift to go to the bathroom, or, you know, getting up to bring him the urinal, and just worried about, he had pneumonia several times. I asked him, I tried to sleep in his room, put a chair in there. There was a lot of different things. He wanted his privacy, he wanted his independence. Tried the camera, that didn't last long, but in the end, I was not sleeping. I was exhausted. And so taking naps, and then of course my husband, you know, he would get up and help me too. So yeah, I really figured it out. It was, you know, some people said, oh my gosh, you know, it's kind of like having a newborn. And it really was in a lot of ways because your sleep rhythm is totally off, and I would get more emotional, or I would find myself short-tempered, and then I felt guilty that I was short, you know. But taking naps was a really great thing. And I also, not towards the end, but you know, we took a couple little small trips, and it was like a reset for me. Again, if I knew, you know, his dad was there and there was family helping out, you know, having a couple of nights away that I could really just I still didn't sleep great because I was always thinking about him, but the rest is important. But, people would say, oh, you have to get rest, you have to rest. And there was just not that, my mind was constantly, listening. I was listening for him. I wanted to make sure I didn't miss him. I felt like if I had too deep of a sleep and he needed something. So yeah, I had thought about overnight help also, and that was just kind of a no-go for Rye. And I respected that, that wasn't something he felt comfortable with. So we kind of managed it, but it really can take a toll. It does take a toll. There's not an easy answer for sure. But if you do have somebody, or, for the folks that are going through this right now, if you do have family that could come over and, kind of take their nap during the day and listen, or, take that shift for you, it's accept the help.
Accepting the help. I almost feel like that's kind of the one takeaway, right, for people that maybe you wish you had known sooner, or grappled onto sooner, right? We have a couple of people asking about the death with dignity option, and this is something that the three of us talked about a little bit before our webinar tonight, and a couple of folks asking if this was ever an option in either of your situations, and if you had those discussions with Ryan or Anton, how did any of that go? Trish, I'll start with you.
I really, not that this is a subject that probably anybody wants to talk about, but I'm glad the question came up, just because it was our experience with Ryan. Ryan, again, he didn't want the feeding tube. He really felt like he was going to beat this thing. He did not want to trach, because Ryan's ALS was one that he was blessed to have his voice. He lost his arm function and his leg function pretty early on. He wrote his book using, voice software and a foot mouse clicker, but he decided to really wait. And it got to the point that he was beyond being able to get a tracheotomy and a feeding tube, just because his forced vital capacity, his lung function had dropped so low that it wasn't safe for him to have surgery. As he started declining, his epiglottis had failed. So with his breathing machine, his air started going into his stomach. So at this point, he had talked to me about the death with dignity, and it was really interesting. Again, we became so soul conjoined that it always seemed like we were bringing things up at the same time. But he had heard about a gal, and I think that she was in Oregon at the time, that she had to go there. She had brain cancer and seizures, and she did the death with dignity. And so Ryan asked me, he said, Mom, I think that this is something that I really want to consider. And it just made it real, and it was hard. But at the same time, we talked to the doctors, and they said, this is the steps. This is a process. You have to be evaluated twice. You have to have a 2-week waiting period. And, they told Ryan, that he was a candidate, that, he went through the steps, and they said, this is a prescription, but it's something that it could stay at the pharmacy, and it's there and approved. And if you feel like you're at a point that you want to exercise that, then you can. And that is what he did. And he really started to suffer in the end. And I'm grateful for that option for him, because for him, I can't imagine what those final days would have been like. So it was a really hard decision, but I'm glad that we talked about it. I'm glad that we talked to the doctors about it. I believe in it firmly. I know that it was controversial, it's still interesting because it's not something that I talked publicly about to people. I think this is probably the first forum I'm even going there, because there is such strong opinions, and at the end of the day, the only thing that really mattered was Ryan's life and honoring him and what he deserved. And what he deserved after going through what he went through was to have a peaceful passing. And we surrounded him in prayer with my sister, and we had a family, and Ryan called each of the family in the room and just had a big love fest. And not that there's ever an easy way to say goodbye for now, but I believe in that, and I'm grateful that it was legal here in California. I'm very grateful for that. That was our experience.
Wow, Trish. Wow. Thank you. Gratitude for you for being open and willing to share that with all of us. I appreciate that so much.
Yeah.
Mari, anything from your perspective, just in conversations you and Anton had about this at all?
Yeah, Anton did consider it at one point, but again, he really felt like he was going to be that one to beat it, and that he was going to just somehow turn this around. And the longer he waited, it got to the point where he no longer had use of his hands or his arms. He, had a feeding tube. So there really wasn't a way for him to, carry out the process on his own. So it became a little tricky, but it is something that he did talk about. And we did interview a woman who is local, who does help with the process. And so we did, research it a little bit, but in the end, we just felt like it wasn't going to happen for him. And I think he was okay with that. I really feel like he wanted this process to play out however it was going to play out. And it's exactly what happened. His will to live was incredible. And he did absolutely everything he could until his body just finally he was just so tired. And it was peaceful. But I think that, had he known the path the last year of his life, which was very, very difficult for him, had he had any foresight in that, I think he probably would have carried out that process earlier on, without a doubt.
I feel like we've had this amazing, very personal, very intimate conversation with both of you guys tonight, and I want to wrap it up just by asking, each, Ryan and Anton, both of your families, became so close with the Golden West chapter, and our care managers here, whether that was Emma for Anton, Daniel for Ryan. Are there things that you feel we could be offering that we don't through our care services programs, or things that were important and powerful to you and your family during your journey with ALS? And I'll let you start, Trish.
Yeah, first, I can't say enough about Daniel. Like, he is just an amazing person. I could text him and say Ryan's having a day, and he would get there as soon as he can. But I really honestly can't think of anything else the chapter could offer. I mean, we had the groups. Ryan had the best care manager, everybody, all of you. I mean, you just welcomed us as family and truly cared about us every step of the way. And again, I'm so grateful for that. And Ryan was as well. you know, the loaner closet thing was always something that I used to say, oh, that's what? There's a pillow clicker. Like I always still had a dream that there was a catalog of all the things, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. And at the end, Ryan couldn't talk, but you know, we learned, oh, there's a thing. So I guess the only suggestion I would ever have is I had a dream that if there was a loaner closet catalog that we all knew, I mean, you just don't know what's invented. But I just, you know, I want to say, yeah, because you're constantly looking for how to make things work. And, you know, I would sew loops on Ryan's underwear so we could put the thumbs on them. And, you know, it was the ideas, right? The bidet, the boot warmers to keep his feet warm, all the things that were helpful to us. There was somebody that, you know, gave us that idea and that thought about what we needed. So I hope I answered your question. I get to talking and I forget what you asked.
Absolutely, you did. That was a perfect answer. I love it. Mari, what about for you?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Trish. And, you know, the loan closet, amazing. Again, you don't know what you don't know. You know, you don't realize all these things that you need. And oftentimes, you know, Golden West would have it, or our caregiver or our care case manager was Emma, who was, you know, she's a rock star. And I know she's on here. I see you,
She
Emma.
is.
So having her on the other end, night or day, I could text her, call her. She would always check in. She still does. And she's incredible. But, you know, the thing that really was impressive, what Emma did for us, was she would pair us up. I mean, aside from, you know, just attending, you know, the caregiver sessions, she would pair us up with other ALS couples that she knew, or she kind of figured we would have some sort of synergy with, or like-minded, or maybe, you know, there was always something. And she would do this email introduction and she'd say, you know, Mari and Anton meet, you know, so-and-so. And she did that often. And we have some of the closest, best, amazing friendships with these other ALS families that today I can call them, or sometimes I'll go have drinks with some of them. And it's like a family, and it's shorthand, right? You don't have to like, well, let me tell you about what's going on with me. It's just amazing. And these are friends that I'll have for life. And we all have something in common that only we know. Oh, you know, we've been to the battlefield and we've survived and we're here. And it's a special relationship that I have now with these other ALS families. And so I'm really grateful that Emma did that. So thank you, Emma.
Yeah, it's so powerful and important for us to just hear this feedback and how important that was for all of you. Yeah. And how important it will be for, you know, current families and future families who are living with this disease. I feel really proud to work with the team that we do. There was a little question in the Q&A as to whether care managers make home visits. They do. They absolutely do. So that's something that we could talk offline with any of you about. So I don't see any other questions, and I feel like that I could talk to you guys all night. So you have helped create such a tremendous program here for us tonight, and I know that the people who have been in our audience really heard you and benefited from this and have lots of their own thoughts and feelings too. So I want to thank you both so much for being here and helping us with this program, and just honoring Ryan and Anton so much throughout the course of this wonderful conversation tonight. I think we're going to just pop up a couple more slides, a little bit more actually about both Ryan and Anton. I want to thank everybody in the audience for joining us. And just wanted to share a little info on the important work left behind by these two wonderful gentlemen we've heard about tonight. First, Ryan Farnsworth's first self-published poetry book, Seeds of Light Sown, and his book, Insights to Life Away, Lessons from Life and ALS About Living Well. This book is a must-read of Ryan's experience and realizations from life and living with ALS. Check it out if you can. And also, the Last Marathon is a documentary about Anton and Mari's journey with ALS. It's a totally wonderful film that's been viewed by many audiences. Absolutely check out both of these terrific pieces of work when you can. I want everybody to save the date for the next one of these Ask Me webinars, which will be on Tuesday, January 31st in the new year. It's going to be an update on ALS research, so please make sure you join us for that. We'll be sending more details out in the coming months. And we want to invite you to join us if you can for our Champions for Cures and Care on Friday, January 20th at the Hyatt Regency in San Francisco. And if you would like some more information about that, please visit alschampions.org. Last, I just want to say you might know that Tuesday, November 29th is Giving Tuesday. And on this International Day of Giving, please consider supporting the Golden West chapter in a way that's meaningful to you and your loved ones. To learn more about how you can support the programs like this one tonight, please visit our website at give.alsagoldenwest.org and watch for the short survey on tonight's presentation that you'll receive via email to help us plan for these in the future. Thanks so much again. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.